My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. Joining me today is Congressman Nickel, who will be coming in from D.C. Great to have you, Mr. Nickel. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy Monday. Good to see you.
Yeah. So we're going to get into it. We've got a lot happening this week. Of course, one of the biggest news items that came out over the weekend was the mention of digital assets by the Vice President, Kamala Harris, running, of course, now as the presidential candidate for the Democrats. I want to get into your opinion, first of all, on the fact that this was done still not necessarily on a wide, well-seen stage. It was somewhat behind the scenes. Can you give us some updates on what you think the Democrats are thinking around digital assets?
Well, it was really welcome news to hear from Vice President Harris specifically on digital assets and AI as well. We've been pushing her campaign and the administration on this issue for months, and they echoed all of the points that we've been making. As Democrats, I led the group of Democrats to get 71 House Democrats to support Fit 21, our first ever digital assets market structure bill. And the points were pretty simple, and we heard her say exactly, what we care about as Democrats, for this issue: protecting U.S. consumers and keeping digital innovation in the United States. That's what she said she wants to do, and that's a real big shift from the current approach of Joe Biden's administration with regulation by enforcement at the SEC. So for those who are watching, this was a real big shift. And it's the reset on crypto that we've been hoping for. So this is very welcome news, and it shows that Vice President Harris is going to be a president for all Americans, working across the aisle. The message was very simple. She wants to get this done, and she wants to work with Congress in a bipartisan way to make that happen. And we're on track to do that in this Congress. Senator Schumer, has our bill in the Senate now, and he said he's going to get it done before the end of the year. So if folks watching this space, this was a very big announcement from Vice President Harris.
Her statement specifically quoted that this was during a fundraiser at Wall Street. Let me kind of zoom in on that a little bit for our audience. Is that she'll encourage the innovative technologies like AI and digital assets while protecting our consumers and investors. But the statements were not necessarily saying crypto, wasn't necessarily going at what we're seeing around many of the other markets out there. How serious do you think this statement was? Was this a passing statement, or do you think this, in your statement, I think you said it was a very significant reset. Is this something that you feel is and could be the turning point for the Democrats in terms of crypto regulation?
Well, I can't talk about the private conversations I've had over the last few months, but we've been making the policy points for a reset here, and this was very specific language that we got out of Vice President Harris herself. That's a big deal, and it's exactly what we've been asking for. And I think kind of to the earlier part of your question, when she became the nominee, we started working right away with her new team on this issue. And encouraging them to embrace digital innovation, making the points that we've been making over and over, and they've been very receptive. They asked for who the people are that they should be talking to as they craft policy. Leaders in this space, we connected them with folks. They've had those meetings. That's something that didn't happen under under President Biden. So this. If you're watching, this is a big shift, and it just shows that Vice President Harris is going to be someone who's, going to be a president for all Americans, leading from the center. That's where folks are in this country. And on this issue, with 20% of registered voters owning crypto, it's an important issue, and I'm just glad that she's willing to make her voice heard on this.
Well, I think you hit it on the head, and that is the size of the voter registration around crypto asset holders. So very significant, definitely could turn an election. Do you think this has been hurting the Democrats in terms of not coming out with a position so far?
Well, I think you're going to continue to see, more and more conversations about, our position on these issues. I've been very obviously out front. I was just with Brian Armstrong and others opening for the chain smokers for a Stand with Crypto event here in Washington last month, where I got to see hundreds and hundreds of voters who are focused on this issue, and we've got to reach out to them. That's really what I'm trying to point out, is that that Democrats support digital innovation. We support crypto. There's a large group of us in the House and the Senate, who want to make sure we keep those jobs here in the United States and make sure that we usher in Web3 the same way we ushered in the internet. That's a huge issue for the future of our country and in this space. So I'm really optimistic about the direction that Democrats are taking, and you're seeing that play out right now.
Well, you look at the current election forecast. This is coming in from Polymarket. A very tight race. Obviously, this will, and for those of you watching, most of our audience knows exactly what Polymarket is. It's a predictive site driven on the backbone of a blockchain called Polygon. And many people will understand this is mostly outside the US, but the savviness of what we've seen coming through these predictive market engines has been fairly accurate. So I would agree with you. I think this is going to be a huge opportunity for the Democrats if they can actually turn the corner and get digital assets into the positive side of things, because I think most everybody has seen only the existing administration's position on what's happening, obviously around enforcement and many other things. I want to go over to a clip, and this is talking more around the AI space. And let me frame this for you. When you saw AI regulation that the VP has been behind, and the way in which this was addressed, we feel, when we look at this, that it could also align very easily with crypto regulation. But let me play this clip for you.
And that is why the United States will continue to work with our allies and partners to apply existing international rules and norms to AI and work to create new rules and norms to establish a minimum baseline of responsible AI practices. The result is a set of voluntary company commitments. So to reduce it down to its most simple point, this is part of the issue that we have here, is thinking about what is going into a decision and then whether that decision is actually legitimate. And therefore, a big part of what we will also discuss then is the transparency. And to the extent that we can encourage that approach, we should. We should not dampen or in any way slow down innovation that can improve the condition of people's lives. And we must also ensure that in that process, we are not trampling on people's rights.
If you put blockchain in the term of AI, you'd have the exact same thing in the scenario of new innovation, all that. So it's clear that the president potential is aligned with what technology is doing, and maybe it's just a matter of education. What do you think are the potential turning points that has caused Ms. Harris to take a position now that seems to be at least aware of digital assets? Because we have yet to hear anything about this. Is there anything that has maybe switched her opinion?
Well, I think you said it really well just now. With this race is incredibly close. I agree. I think Kamala Harris is the underdog. She's been the first to say that as well. But it's going to be so incredibly close, and every issue matters. And when you're talking about 20% of registered voters owning crypto, I think there's easily 1 million single issue voters, and in states like North Carolina and Arizona and Georgia, that literally could be the difference. So you got to talk to voters about the issues that matter. And we are in such a different place than we were in terms of public adoption of crypto and blockchain technology over the last 4 and 8 years. Just a huge sea change. So you got to adapt or die if you want to make a compelling message to the voters. And I think we're seeing that right now. Anybody who's against crypto and blockchain technology now, you're gonna look back on it and it's gonna be like the people who wanted to get rid of the internet because it was a place that you could go and find porn. So that I think it's a really important point and shows that she's going to be a president who leads on this issue.
I'm looking at when we've been following the FIT bill quite a bit, and obviously the Democrat commitment in the early stage of the FIT bill has been somewhat significant. I would say alarming so, much more bipartisan than many people would have thought. Where do you think it stands today? Have we won any more Democrats over to a positive outcome for the FIT bill?
Oh, no, very, very optimistic, very bullish on our chances. I led the group of House Democrats to get us to 71 votes. People didn't think we'd be able to do that, but we educated folks on the issues. And when we educate people on the issues, they're going to be with us. And that was, work that we did in my office, work that, leaders around the country did, asking their members of Congress to engage on the issue. And the ones who did, came over. But because of the big vote we had in the House, and I think what we're going to see is an improvement on the bill in the Senate, there's going to be a much bigger group of Democrats supporting this when it comes back to the House. I believe after the election, Senator Schumer on a Crypto for Harris Zoom said exactly that he committed to getting it done in the Senate before the end of the year. So I know the behind the scenes work that's happening in the Senate to move a bill, to take Fit 21, improve on it, get it back to the House. I'm optimistic we're going to get that done. I think we're also going to get a stablecoin bill done this year. And then the lowest hanging fruit is getting rid of SAB 121, the custodial banking issue. So those are the three big things we're working on. And there's a very good bipartisan coalition around these issues. And if I could just step back too, I'm here in Congress. We are on track to be the least productive Congress in our nation's history. You have to go back to 1860 to find another Congress that did as little as we've done so far. We've only done must-pass bills, funding the government, raising the debt ceiling, supporting our Democratic allies abroad so that we didn't hand over Eastern Europe to Putin. But this is an issue we've been able to work on in a bipartisan way. So I'm very hopeful that the work we've done will continue to push this across the finish line. And when you got folks like Schumer and Gillibrand and others behind a bill like this in the Senate, it says really good things for the product we're going to get back when it comes back to the House to get this over the finish line.
So you hinted that Schumer would be behind this, possibly even going into this next session. Do you think this could actually get to the House floor for a vote, or I think through the House, I should say, and the Senate in this session before the end of the year?
That's the commitment that Senator Schumer has made publicly to get it done this year. He said that on a Crypto for Harris Zoom we did that was covered. Okay. But those are the things he had been saying to us behind the scenes, privately for months. The best time ever to get things done is right after an election when there's as few politics as possible behind an issue. And again, for anyone who cares about the future of Web3 in the United States, it needs to be a bipartisan future. We want to take the politics out of this issue. If you care about, lasting work, lasting progress, if it becomes a hyper-partisan Trump issue, it's just going to ping pong back and forth, and we're never going to, have real certainty in our markets. So that's the message that I take to folks. We want to keep working on this together, and in Congress we did that. Patrick McHenry, who's the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, came to me and other Democrats early on and said, listen, I want to do this in a bipartisan way. They continue to take our changes, the things we asked them to change. That's how Congress is supposed to work. It hasn't worked like that on many issues, but this is one that I'm very bullish on our chances.
I want to touch on a couple more topics here, Congressman Nickel. One is the issue of self-custody and its importance. I want to play a clip for you. This is coming in from Cynthia Lummis on that very point. Take a look.
My husband and I had bank accounts. He went to bed one night, had a massive heart attack in his sleep, and didn't wake up the next morning. He died. My name was not on our bank accounts. I can't find his will. And it was like an 8-week period. And I had bills piling up during that period. I'm having to call people and say, I can't pay you right now because I don't have access to our money. It was a horrible experience. This happened to me. I want to know that when someone in the United States sends money to their mother in, some corrupt country, they can get it on their phone and hold it. That's the value of the individual wallet.
It puts, I think, an eye on where self-custody is and versus what a lot of governmental controls have been in the future or in the past. Do you think that Congress is now in a position where they truly appreciate what this means and how it can affect so many Americans?
Well, I'm very hopeful that we can make progress on a lot of these issues. That'd certainly be one of them. And stepping back, I did not know that about Senator Lummis's husband. I'm sad to hear that. But, we certainly can do a lot working together on these issues, and, getting it right for blockchain technology and Web3 on this, I think, is especially important. That's definitely one of the bucket of issues that we ought to be looking at as we continue to craft and refine legislation.
But here's Tom Emmer. He's been on our show a couple of times, and he had a tweet out here. This was interesting. Let me zoom in on that for you to read a little bit better. Future of peer-to-peer digital economy cannot be left to the authoritarian whims of Gary Gensler. And he's really talking about things like the position of airdrops that are securities. Airdrops meaning, a digital asset that's dropped into somebody's wallet unbeknownst to them. It could be anything from a loyalty point to something of value. And of course, the idea as to whether or not that's a security transaction and potentially a problem. But when you look at the SEC and we'll say it, an overreach that they've seemed to have been after this industry, do you think we are in a position now with either regime that may come into power to where this could possibly change in terms of the pressure on the industry that we've seen so far?
The approach of Gary Gensler with his regulation by enforcement push at the SEC is not serving this administration well. It's not serving the American people well. And I certainly know and believe that he will not continue at the SEC beyond his current term. So I think there are many of us who disagree with that approach. And I just try to focus on this Democratic coalition that we've been able to build around this issue. And it really, for right now, for this Congress, the big focus is FIT 21, that digital assets market structure bill, passing a stablecoins bill, and rolling back SAB 121, so our highest and best regulated banks in the world can take custody of digital assets. Those are the buckets that I'm focusing on with Democrats right now, and it's a fragile coalition. So I'm trying to get first things first done, and then we can kind of get on to some of these other issues. But those are places where my Republican colleagues have certainly some. Have their positions and their thoughts, and their coalition built. I'm still trying to focus my coalition on, the things that are, right there in front of us, and more important to get done quickly.
The more positive news we can hear in the digital asset space, especially coming out of DC, is going to be, I think, unbelievable for not only the voters of the United States, but also for the globe, because I think a lot of people from an innovation standpoint look to the U.S. to kind of lead in these areas. So it's definitely a potential opportunity here. One thing I want to bring note to. Go ahead.
I think that's a great point too. I traveled around the world as part of a congressional delegation tour. We went to Abu Dhabi, Singapore, Tokyo, and had just exactly those conversations. And the message in all places was very clear. They need the U.S. leadership here for the rest of the world. We are part of a global economy, and we need to be leaders in this space for the technology to continue advancing elsewhere.
Yeah, I have one last clip for you to take a look, as I want to get your opinion on this one. This is the CFTC still looking at a potential ban on prediction. Now, remember, they lost the case on the prediction market situation, by a judge in the U.S. courts, and now they're still kind of pushing this after. But let me play this clip for you.
Could potentially mess with democracy,
yeah.
That it could really play a role in how people vote is the argument that you make. What evidence do you have of that?
At least one component, and I'm still going to get to your second part of the question, is if we end up listing these contracts on regulated CFTC exchanges, you can imagine a scenario where there is news put out about a candidate. That news is not necessarily true. It then impacts the price of a contract that we regulate. And if it is then come out and alleged that that price was manipulated because of that fake news or that allegation of fraud or manipulation, any of these allegations of fraud or manipulation would then pull the CFTC into investigating that fraud or manipulation allegation. To your earlier question, what do we have? What information do we have? This is just basic expertise of markets.
Is there a benefit to these markets, given that in some ways they do provide more transparency on how people feel?
I will say this very clearly. This is largely illegal in most states in the United States, gambling on political events. And I think as Americans, none of us want to see this happen. And again, we'll continue to make this fight. We'll see what the court decides ultimately.
So obviously, that's the chair of the CFTC. They lost in court on this very topic. One of the things he kind of referenced there was this idea of truth, which in blockchain, that's an element that is very transparent. In fact, it's done by oracles, even on the platform of Polymarket. UMA is one of the good examples of that, in terms of being able to track what is truthful and not truthful. which is one of the technological benefits of where blockchain really kind of represents itself. Do you think that we're in a position yet to where both Congress and a lot of the bureaucracies that we see within many of these organizations truly understand this technology and what it's capable of?
Well, I can't speak to the administration. I can speak to Congress, and it's been an uphill battle with some of my colleagues trying to explain the technology. And the ones who are focused on learning more are generally very receptive to the public policy arguments. But the only point I just try to make is the technology, especially blockchain technology, is going to help with transparency in a major way. What you put out there on the blockchain is the truth, and I think that's the sort of public policy place that I start with.
So we've got a couple of things happening. You're not going to be running again, it looks like. So I noticed a tweet there that basically said, based on a restructuring of the map of your particular district, that's not necessarily going to be the case. If you don't run again, what does the Democratic Party look like from a pro-crypto, pro-digital assets standpoint? Do you think we have enough Democrats to carry the torch forward?
I'm very optimistic about what we're going to be doing as a Democratic Party on this issue. You see a ton of great candidates moving into the Senate as well, from the House to the Senate. Alyssa Slotkin, Ruben Gallego, two to name specifically. So the coalition we built is only going to get bigger. And, we have a lot of other people coming into Congress who are very forward-looking for digital assets. So, I think, my hope, though, is that we get a big vote on the board and can show that the Democrats, are very pro-digital innovation when we get another vote in the Congress. And this Congress was the first time we've ever voted on crypto, ever in our nation's history. Great leaders like Chuck Schumer and Mark Cuban and Nancy Pelosi, supporting Fit 21 and sensible U.S. regulations in this area, only bodes well for the next Congress and the votes on that we're going to continue to have as we refine these issues and continue pushing legislation in Congress. For me, there's other elections in the future. We're taking a good look at our Senate race, but that's not for this cycle. But a lot more work I want to get done, but this is an issue that, has a real chance to improve the lives of my constituents and, keep the U.S. moving in a very positive direction in terms of, the digital innovation, the future of Web3.
With that being said, one of the biggest antagonists, I'll call, of the crypto industry so far has been Senator Warren. How much of a position do you feel she would hold in a Kamala Harris camp, not only just in her administration, if she were to win the presidency, how much of an impact do you think Senator Warren would have?
I certainly agree with Senator Warren on a lot of issues. This is an issue that I don't agree with her on. We're a big ticket party, though. We have people with a lot of different opinions in the Democratic Party, but we're welcoming, accepting to all. I think in this election, too, you're going to see a lot of Republicans and independents joining us because of the far right push of MAGA Republicans in the House and certainly, with Trump. But I think in a Harris administration, you're going to see a much more moderate approach on this issue and a lot of others. And I think that'll be a difference from the current Biden administration.
Even from Senator Warren, you think there would be a more moderate approach?
Oh, no, I'm not speaking for Senator Warren. I'm just speaking for the things that I care about, and that's making a bipartisan coalition in Congress to get things done. And you don't need to get everybody's vote. You just got to get a majority in both chambers. You can't make everybody happy, but you can get to a majority, and that's the only math that matters for me.
Congressman Nickel, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great having you. Good insights, and of course, I think this is a very critical point now with, Vice President Harris's campaign, because if we do get a signal, a real signal that there is some sort of policy that would be in alignment with digital assets, this could really make this heat and this race very close for sure. So thanks again for stopping in. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you guys are tuned in maybe on the podcast side of things. Make sure and jump over here to the YouTube channel, get a full experience of everything we do here at PBN. And one of the things you want to do is get in on our private membership, which is the Diamond Circle. It's easy and it's free. All you have to do is click the link down below to get involved in that. Of course, you can follow me on X @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.